This is Frontpage with Njideka Maduka, bringing clarity to the headlines, one page at a time.
That's right, Frontpage with me, Njideka Maduka. It's lovely Thursday morning. We're back to do what we like to do, which is reviewing our front pages, what's hot and what's not, as far as our national dailies are concerned. Paper review, basically. And so is September the 11th, and our papers are loaded. Hope you're doing great. Hope you woke up on the right side. And so let's get started, shall we? The papers before us are The Sun, The Punch, and the Leadership newspapers.
This is Frontpage with Njideka Maduka, bringing clarity to the headlines, one page at a time.
On the Sun newspaper, Big Bird. On the front page, strike. Federal government given fresh ultimatum by resident doctors. Strike. Federal government given fresh ultimatum by resident doctors. Well, let's look at the lead. The Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors has given the federal government 24 hours to meet its outstanding demands after the expiration of its earlier 10-day deadline on September 10. The ultimatum was issued following a 6-hour meeting of NAD's National Executive Council held virtually on Wednesday. NAD President, that's Dr. Tope Oshundara, stated that while the association acknowledges the government's pledge to address the issues raised, immediate action has to be taken. Well, we're back to it again. Resident doctors under NAD have given the federal government a fresh 24-hour ultimatum after the earlier 10-day deadline they issued expired. The resident doctors, like we all know, are medical doctors who have gotten their MBBS degree after like 6 years in medical school. They have completed their 1 year of housemanship, which is like their internship. They've done their NYSC and are now doing their residency program in various teaching hospitals or federal medical centers, so that they can specialize in any of the different fields of medicine. So when you see a resident doctor in those hospitals, is either the person is receiving training to specialize maybe in, say, surgery, pediatrics, internal medicines, obstetrics, and gynecology, among other specialties. Now, according to reports, resident doctors in Nigeria make up about 40 to 45% of the country's total doctors' workforce in teaching hospitals and federal medical centers, and they're like the backbone of healthcare delivery. The service is crucial because they provide the bulk of the manpower in government-owned tertiary hospitals. They handle emergencies, do outpatient care, they do ward rounds, and they assist consultants. So without them, the health and security of the country would be seriously compromised. But one thing I've noticed is the ease with which these doctors, whether those under the residency program or the rest of them under the Nigerian Medical Association, go on strike. I've always asked or questioned why that is. But from what I found, it could be because doctors are at the top of the medical hierarchy and are directly involved in life-saving decisions. And so because of this, they feel the brunt of poor working conditions. You have things like lack of equipment, drugs, no allowances, and if they are not provided or if these things are lacking, they try to use strike to push government to action. In addition to that is that most of them, especially those who pass through residency, are very much aware of international standards. When they look at the Nigerian situation and they compare it to other countries, they become frustrated. And so it makes them more willing to demand better pay and structures. Besides that, they say that the NMA, that's the general body for all doctors, is very strong, is united, they are unified. It's not like other associations, other professionals that, they have these different factions, as far as unionism is concerned. So they are better poised to bargain effectively. Doctors also spend a long time, not just doing their first degrees, but their residency program, especially for those who end up specializing. And most times this could take like 6 to 7 years with all of the financial costs. So they would want something that is commensurate with their level of schooling and training. For the resident doctors specifically, they are said to work some of the toughest schedules in the health system, because sometimes they work like 36-hour shifts. Imagine being in the hospital 36 hours, and that comes with poor pay, delayed allowances, inadequate infrastructure. But you also have to consider that their union, NAD, also tends to be more vocal, more radical, because government neglect can actually impact their progress. They're supposed to spend a particular number of years training in any field. If government doesn't meet their request, they can be stuck, without progressing further. And so I guess this actually explains everything, because I remember the last time nurses under the National Association of Nigerian Nurses and Midwives went on strike. They said the last time they did so was 40 years ago. And you begin to ask, is it because they don't really believe in strike, or the union is not as strong as those of NAT and NMA? Or is it that they don't spend that number of years in training like the doctors? Sometimes personally I like to ask, is it also because they don't really see themselves in that superior light like the doctors? I know how doctors like to pride themselves, everybody calling them doctor. There's this kind of respect that comes to doctors, and so they see themselves as quite superior. How do the nurses see themselves? Sometimes I like to think along that particular route. But that's by the way. Anyway, the resident doctors, after their INEC meeting on Wednesday, decided to give the government until Thursday, which is today, to attend to their demands. Otherwise, they would go on strike. We're learning that the government reached out to them on Wednesday or so. And of course, the fact that they reached out to them after the expiration of an earlier deadline, for me, is worrisome, and it's become a habit of government. You wait till the last minute before you reach out to professionals who are making certain demands. They did that to which union actually threatened strike the other time, and they had to come in at the last minute. Yeah, that's Nupeng, right? The fact that you wait till the very last minute to attend to one of the most important sectors in the economy, a sector that determines the level of our human capital development, is worrisome. You know what they say, health is wealth. An unhealthy nation cannot be productive and therefore cannot create wealth. If the Constitution has already told you that the primary responsibility of government is the welfare and security of lives of citizens, why do government act unconcerned when anything that threatens the welfare and security of citizens begins to rear its ugly head? Are they aware of this constitutional mandate, or they're just unconcerned? But let's look at what the resident doctors are asking for. Number one, they're asking for immediate payment of the 2025 medical residency training fund. when you talk about this residency training fund, it's like the fund set aside by government to sponsor doctors who are undergoing the residency training in the different teaching hospitals and medical centers. And so it takes care of their exam fees, their course registration, their research, and sometimes travel. According to what we're learning, the residency fund was introduced in 2017 to ease the financial burden of specialization. The residency training thing can be quite costly. And so the government just deems it fit to shoulder some of the financial responsibilities so that we can have enough doctors in the country. But if government doesn't do this, like I said earlier, those people get stuck. So imagine if somebody is supposed to write an exam that can see him or her graduate to become a full specialist, and government doesn't pay that money. The possibility of the person getting stuck is high, especially for people who do not really have anywhere to go or any person to ask for help. They basically bank on the government residency fund. But sometimes some of them actually pay some of those fees themselves, which actually defeats the whole purpose of government bearing the financial responsibility in the first place. Secondly, they're asking for settlement of 5 months arrears from the 25 to 35% comments review. That's the consolidated medical salary structure, which is like the official salary scale for doctors in Nigeria. It was reviewed some time ago, I think 2023 or thereabout, by 25 to 35%. But the thing is, government is owing them 5 months arrears of that reviewed fund. Okay, and the doctors are saying, well, we want that money. They're also asking for payment of 2024 accoutrement allowance arrears. When you talk about accoutrement allowance, you're talking about the allowance they use to buy, things like uniforms, lab coats, some work equipment that they need for their work. So government is owing them the sum. Right, and there is also the call for prompt disbursement of specialist allowance. That's the allowance for the specialists. The consultants basically is just like additional pay to compensate them for the work they do. And also maybe the resident doctors who are also specializing in their field, they need to be paid some sort of allowance as they are preparing to be full-blown specialists. They are also asking for recognition for the West African Postgraduate Membership Certificate. You have the West African College of Physicians and West African College of Surgeons. They issue regional membership certificates after what you can term rigorous exams. But the thing is, their certificates are being debated by the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. Of recent, they're beginning to not recognize them for career progression. Is a bit more predisposed to the National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria certificate, which is like the Nigerian own kind of certificate. Just like when WAEC does exam for secondary school students in West Africa, and then you have NECO do for Nigerian students. Okay, so the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria is beginning to take a second look at the West African version of that certificate as a necessity for the career progression of these resident doctors. But the doctors are saying you have to recognize both of them. Among other demands the doctors are making, so they are threatening that if government fails to act by Thursday, they will commence strike immediately on Friday, right? Of course, we already know the possible impact of such industrial action. We don't need to dwell on that. But the question is, does government know about this impact? or should I say, are they sympathetic to the impact? Because I like to think that they know about the impact. Because if you are sympathetic to the impact, you'll put yourself in the shoes of anybody who would be at the receiving end of the impact. You will think about how it feels to need urgent medical care but can't get it because the doctors are on strike. You'll put yourself in the shoes of that accident victim that may die because the doctors are on strike. You put yourself in the shoes of that pregnant woman who is in labor but may lose the child because there is no doctor to attend to them. Most times we don't think about those things, and that's why we ignore the requests by these professionals. The same thing in the education sector. Imagine lecturers going on strike for 8 months without batting an eyelid. No one is thinking about how these students fall victim of a failed system. The fact that during their strike period, that's when they may join bad gangs, that's when they may learn bad habits that will have serious consequences on the future. I was reading an article after former governor of Anambra State, Njideka Maduka, died. When some people were busy speaking of his legacy, the author of that article I came across noted that the administration of Maduka caused teachers to go on strike, and during the strike some students never returned, and it is possible that those who never returned are among the unknown gunmen we talk about today. So you see how our unfeelingness, if I can use that word, causes a broken system. If we don't realize this as soon as possible and act accordingly, we may become the victim of that broken system we failed to fix. You know what they say, a word is enough for the wise. We're living that story on the Sun. Big Bird headline on the Punch, some political matters. It says 2027, police INEC move against early campaigns. 2027, police INEC move against early campaigns. While as the race towards the 2027 general election gathers momentum, the Independent National Electoral Commission and the Nigeria Police Force have warned political parties against embarking on early campaigns in violation of the Electoral Act. Well, the INEC chairman Mahmood Yakubu was lamenting that campaigns have started already. Subtle campaigns have started despite clear provisions that restrict such activities to 150 days before the polls. We also see him lamenting that there is no legal provision to penalize those who campaign ahead of the 150-day threshold for campaign takeoff and the 24-hour limit to end campaign. First of all, they said it was a roundtable talk. We also heard from the former INEC chairman, Atahiru Jega. But my question is, were the political parties there? Were they invited or the representatives? Because if you don't invite them and they read your lamentations on the pages of newspapers, will they not just wave it off? INEC chairman also talked about authorities implementing stricter penalties to tackle premature campaign. But did they invite the National Assembly or its representatives to express this concern? Because this kind of roundtable should aim higher than just talking, but lobbying and eliciting commitment from those who have that power to look into the concerns of the electoral body. In fact, that's when you begin to probe into the body and spirit of laws already provided. It's a time to ask the lawmakers, why did you provide punishment for those who campaign 24 hours to election day, but you do not provide for those who campaign before the stipulated 150 days? Was it a genuine oversight, given that no one envisaged that campaign will start early, or was it deliberate? Is it because it's intended that we work with the stipulated timeline and not busy ourselves with any other thing that happens before then? and possibly not count them as campaigns, no matter how they look like campaigns? Maybe if you pose such questions, a representative of the National Assembly can give a genuine answer, and then we can begin to work towards a review, right? But like I'd asked today during our morning program on radio, why is INEC focused on laws that do not exist, but turn a blind eye to the ones that exist? I mean, if you read the INEC chairman, Mahmood, talking about how, they're handicapped. The thing is, people talk about how we're not able to do anything, but, you cannot do anything because there is no stipulation. And I'm like, okay. But the Electoral Act recommends penalty for those who use abusive language, who use intemperate language, who use slanderous language, during campaigns. In Section 92, subsection 7 of the Electoral Act, let me even read it. They said, a political party aspirant or candidate who contravenes any of the provisions of the section commits an offence and is liable to conviction, in the case of an aspirant or candidate, to a maximum fine of 1 million naira or imprisonment for a term of 12 months if you use abusive language. In the case of a political party, to a fine of 2 million naira in the first instance and 1 million naira for any subsequent offence. So the question is, has INEC done anything about it? In 2023 election, we had such abusive language. What INEC did at that time was just issuing warnings, right? Something you have been empowered to impose a fine on. When you look at the Anambra State campaign for the governorship election, which is coming November 8, you see people abusing themselves, using debasing words. The INEC is not doing anything about it, but they're concerned about pre-election campaign and how they are handicapped. Anyway, I rest my case. If they're willing to review it, and that would make them to sit up and perhaps question political parties, well, let them do it. Otherwise, it's just a round talk with no action. And finally, moving on to the next paper, which is the leadership. This one says Tinubu has ordered us to crash food prices, says Minister. Tinubu has ordered us to crash food prices, says the Minister. That's the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Sabi Abdullahi. He said that the President Tinubu has ordered a committee within the Federal Executive Council to reduce food prices further nationwide. Something about making the roads safer for those transporting food. Saying that the routes through which these foods pass, sometimes they meet obstacles and they usually affect food prices. And so what will it be? Will government address the multiple levies on the roads, which is also contributing to the high price of food? Drivers from one point to the other are giving money to different groups of people. You have the criminals, you have the bandits. Is government willing to take care of that? You have our bad roads as well. Even some markets impose charges on these transporters before they are allowed to offload their goods. How are you going to take care of that? You have the agberos. Because if you pay all these people, you will need to recoup your money, and that would mean increasing the end price for consumers. And so, can government really take care of these nuisances? What's the master plan? We just issue a directive. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. It's a wrap for us right here on the front page. I'm hoping you'll go out there, be the best version of yourself, like I always say. Don't forget to drop your comments. Let us know what you think about any of the headlines. Share, like. Let's keep the conversation going. One page at a time, one headline at a time. Don't forget to follow me on social media. Visit linktree.ee/Njideka Maduka. Click on any of the tabs. It will take you to any of my social media handles. Let's connect and talk. And let's see if we can fix Nigeria in our own way. My name is Njideka. I will see you next time. Have a lovely Thursday.